All right, Tigers fans, buckle up because tonight the Tigers finally did something that feels like a real statement. The Detroit Tigers have agreed to sign left-handed ace Framber Valdez to a 3-year, $115 million contract, a deal that hit the wires tonight and instantly reshapes the narrative around Motown's rotation heading into 2026. That deal carries roughly a $38.3 million average annual value, and it's the highest ever paid for a left-handed pitcher and the highest for a Latin American pitcher in baseball history. Now, I'm sure that brings about some questions about the Skubal situation, which I'm going to get to in a minute, but Valdez, who is 32 years old and fresh off of a season with the Houston Astros, where he posted a 3.66 ERA across 31 starts with 187 strikeouts, brings durability, experience, and a track record of being one of the harder working arms in the sport. So this was a big deal for the Tigers. This was a good pickup. Over the past 5 seasons, he's been a workhorse. He's 32 years old, and he's fresh off a season with the Astros where he posted a 3.66 ERA across 31 starts, notched 187 strikeouts, and he's got plenty of durability and experience and a track record of being one of the harder working arms in the sport. So this was a big win for the Tigers. I like the move. He's averaged well over 175 innings per year and is known for a heavy ground ball pitch mix and a sinker curveball combo that frustrates big league hitters. And so for the Tigers, this move is huge on 2 fronts. Number one, it instantly pairs Valdez with Tarik Skubal atop Detroit's rotation, giving them arguably one of the best left-hand starting duos, not just in the AL, but in all of baseball. That's a statement to the rest of the league. Detroit isn't just lurking in the Central anymore. They're trying to compete for real. But that brings us to the second subplot here. The timing of the signing. Because Framber Valdez's deal comes right as Tarik Skubal and the Tigers are locked in a high-stakes arbitration showdown. And Skubal, fresh off winning not 1, but 2 American League Cy Young Awards, filed for $32 million for next season, while the Tigers counted at $19 million in salary arbitration. Now, I beat that horse to death. You can go back and listen to the segments, but that $13 million gap is the largest MLB arbitration history, and a hearing is underway even as we speak, possibly with a conclusion to that tomorrow. And so while Tigers fans may be celebrating this tonight, there's a bittersweet edge to it. The optics of signing a free agent starter to $115 million, potentially more money per year than what they're offering their homegrown ace, that's sparking some debate across social media and fan boards, and I get why. Now, some Tigers fans are thrilled, calling it a long-needed move that finally gives Detroit an elite rotation. Others are scratching their heads, wondering if this signals that the Tigers are preparing to move on from Skubal sooner rather than later, or that they simply aren't willing to pay him what he wants. And that's a worry worth unpacking because Skubal, who is just 29, is arguably the best pitcher the Tigers have had in decades. I mean, last season he went 13-6. He had a league best 2.21 ERA, and he posted a .891 WHIP. I mean, we're talking about elite numbers that made him both the team leader and feared arm every 5th day. The Tigers relying on Skubal as their true ace has been a core part of this club's identity, and now he's in arbitration with them over a record salary figure, while Valdez gets a huge multi-year contract. Now, the way this plays out could have a ripple effect throughout the entire season. If Skubal wins his arbitration case and he gets closer to that $32 million figure, it could set the table for Detroit and Skubal to have a renewed relationship and even open doors for a long-term extension, if both sides want that. And if the club can now make the math work with Valdez on their books, which I got to tell you, I mean, I'm surprised by this move. But if Skubal loses, and maybe the Tigers know something that we don't, and ends up stuck closer to that $19 million mark the Tigers offered him, then you're talking about a pitcher who just posted Cy Young numbers getting paid significantly less than his new teammate coming off a decent but not elite season. That's not just awkward. That's potentially destabilizing in a clubhouse. And now let's talk about the baseball side of things for this. What does this signing actually do for Detroit in 2026? Well, realistically, adding Valdez gives the Tigers a chance to pitch around the strengths. Detroit can match up better against teams that struggle with left-handed pitching. And they can use rotation to set the tone in early innings of big series. Valdez's ground ball tendencies could play very well in Comerica Park, especially if the infield defense tightens up after a few seasons of them being average at best. Ultimately, it gives the Tigers depth beyond their top arms, and they can now move players around in bullpen and rotation roles more strategically without risking being overexposed. But here's the thing. Valdez may be an elite staff addition, but he's not a Cy Young Skubal. That's not subjective. Skubal's 2025 season was historic, full stop. He led the league, he was dominant, and now Detroit's front office is essentially betting on 2 strong seasons from a 32-year-old Valdez, while Skubal, the younger and in his prime arm, might depart after 2026 unless a deal gets done. That's the crossroads this franchise is approaching, and it's an uncomfortable one to say the least. There's also the question of the opt-out. Some reports suggest Valdez's contract includes an opt-out after 2 seasons, meaning if he balls out in Detroit, he could hit free agency again before the 2028 season. And if that happens, the Tigers might lose him just as he's entering his very late prime. That would leave pretty valuable pitching resources on the outside looking in once again. And so fans online are already buzzing tonight, talking about how this might impact Skubal's future. In some of the Reddit forums, Tigers fans and fans from around the league are debating whether Detroit gave up leverage in negotiations with Skubal by signing Valdez, and I'm kind of wondering that too. Some think this signals that Detroit is preparing to let Skubal walk after 2026, or even consider trading him at the deadline if they don't see eye to eye on money or long-term fit. And yeah, that could also be part of this. I mean, this is a major signing with a left-handed pitcher, and they paid him more than they're paying Skubal. Skubal's the hometown guy, not this guy. I mean, he's a good player. I'm glad they got him, but the messaging of that isn't going to be good. I mean, other fans think this simply shows the Tigers are serious about competing in 2026. And obviously they are, but, you know, they're not going to have to rely solely on Skubal for the pitching success either, now that we're in this situation. But that's the tightrope that the Tigers are walking right now. This move could absolutely energize this rotation and make Detroit a legitimate dark horse in the American League. I mean, a Skubal Valdez 1-2 punch is nothing to scoff at, but it could also create internal tension if the arbitration hearing doesn't go Skubal's way. And it raises legitimate questions about player evaluation, commitment to homegrown stars, and what the long-term strategy is going to be. And so whatever your stance is, it's clear that this isn't just another off-season headline. This literally could define the Tigers' 2026 identity. So for the next few days, as arbitration verdicts come in and spring training approaches, watch how this story unfolds. Because the Tigers' rotation suddenly went from intriguing to compelling. And right in the middle of it sits both Valdez and Skubal, potentially heading in very different directions. That's tonight's blockbuster for Detroit baseball. Keep it locked. You're listening to Midnight Sports Detroit.